there are two sources of blind spots. One is just pure hubris and overconfidence, right? You're very good in your market space. You think you're the leader. You think you must know everything as a result. And so you look at, this is the classic Innovators dilemma that Clayton Christensen talked about, right? You see maybe there's an upstart out there doing something similar, but they can't be nearly as good as you, therefore you ignore them for too long, and it turns out that their business model totally undercuts yours, and then you get disrupted. But the other interesting part is that in technology and innovation, there are a lot of opportunities for technologies to move laterally. So something that you think is irrelevant to your market segment develops to the point where all of a sudden that capability actually overlaps with what you provide. But you kept on thinking it was irrelevant because it didn't look like yours. So this is a little bit different from the innovator's dilemma, where it's not that the technology was immature or bad, it's that it just hadn't been applied properly into your own business. And so what we find is that a lot of companies fail to look laterally at what are those kind of outside things that could suddenly become relevant to them, and by the time they finally spot it, it's too late.
Well, I'm thinking classic cases like Apple getting into entertainment, Amazon getting into entertainment. Who in the entertainment industry would have thought those two would be competitors?
Yeah, and I think one of the really interesting parts about that is this whole idea of business model innovation as opposed to technology innovation, right? So, the Apple iPod, everybody thinks of as like a great Apple innovation. So Apple did very little inventing in the iPod. Most of that device existed in other forms, and in fact, Apple bought a company to make the basis of the iPod. What was Apple's innovation? The dollar a song download. The fact that Steve Jobs could hammer the record companies into giving up the rights to those songs for $1 a download was the only thing that made the iPod viable. And once they opened up that market, then folks like Amazon, Google Music, right, they can come in and start to take over that same space. Now, the traditional record companies had no idea what they were giving up by making that agreement with Steve Jobs. So that's how he basically disrupted their entire business. They thought, this is just going to be a digital download is going to be a small part of our market, and now it's basically the whole game. One thing that we're working on at RTI is this idea of how do you really understand what is the capability that you're delivering, not the technology. And the speaker from Rolls-Royce yesterday had the same point, right? People don't buy a product or a technology, they buy what it enables them to do. So, if I need a new way to get around town, I could own a car, or I could take a cab, or all of a sudden I can do a ride share and use an Uber, right? So those are all actually the same market. But the car companies never thought of themselves as competing with an Uber, right? And now that Uber is looking at, self-driving cars, you got a whole different kind of capability that's being enabled. So it's really understanding what is the core value I'm providing the customer, what's another way that somebody can deliver that same value, who's got a complementary technology that can be shifted into that market space or to fulfill that need. And there are, I think, now emerging ways to figure out, on a almost computational basis, who really has the potential to become my competitor in the future if they develop their technology in the right direction.